Hello, good friends. This is a different type of message in my cancer tales. I'm not taping myself sitting up because I've had a setback that I'll get to in a bit. It's been a while since I made one of these videos, and yeah, there are some things that have happened since the last one. The last one I gave, I was midway through chemo pills after having gone off immunotherapy and started for 3 months this chemo pill, which had some different side effects for me. They all have side effects. And I carried on, still exercising, still swimming 3 days a week. Played even a round of golf in July. And was strong, but getting weaker. And was awaiting the next PET scan at the beginning of September to see what was happening inside me. So the previous PET scan in June, and I described it in detail, but it showed that the two tumors in my liver and one in each lobe were growing. And that's why they switched me off the immunotherapy and put me on these chemo pills. Was the immunotherapy did not seem to be slowing down the growth. Other things it showed were tumors in my lungs, small, and evidence of bone cancer, all caused by the malignant melanoma that started in my eye. That's the unique melanoma that metastasizes, likely to metastasize in my liver, especially as I was in the highest risk category, and it did. It did back in July of 2023 because it showed up in an August 3rd MRI that they'd already been two tiny tumors that have kept growing. So skipping ahead, I did the last of the pills in August, and then was awaiting the results and wondering what would happen when they took the PET scan in early September. And yes, it showed that those two tumors, and the write-up I didn't really understand because they were no longer discussing tumors, but when I saw my doctor 2 days later, he clarified it, that they had actually expanded so much and grown together. And now 50% of my now enlarged liver was a mass of tumors, a single mass. And liver function was already diminishing, which showed up in my blood tests. It also continued to say that there were the tumors in my lungs were growing, and the bone cancer was spreading. But these are not the things that would kill me. It will be when my liver shuts down. And this means that in early September, I already knew that there was my liver was beginning to go sideways, and instead of having months to live, it was down to weeks. So I'm still strong. My mental capacity is still strong. This is now toward the end of September, and certain things have happened. Beginning that day, they scheduled me for the following week to come in and have a different type of chemo. And the hope is just to slow this down because I am still mentally active and still enjoying living. Still enjoying the movie that's going on in my head. And that's unfortunately, after that weekend, and I was still swimming. I went swimming. I saw my doctor on Thursday. That would have been the 5th of September. And on Friday, I went swimming, swam the same 40 minutes of laps, and did lap times that were better than when I started last October in 2023. and went swimming again on Monday. On Tuesday night, I had some weird tingling in my arm. And well, I'd been taking steroids for a year, and that's one of the side effects. But this was worse. It felt like a stinger. You know, if you hit your elbow in a certain way, ooh, it stings all the way down your forearm. But this was the whole length of my right arm. And then during the night, and I think I rolled over, and this is when it really happened. I was dreaming I was being stabbed in the back, and I woke up and I felt like I was being stabbed in the back. And I tried to go to the bathroom, which I needed to do. And the pain from walking dropped me to my knees twice. I had no idea what this was. Was it side effects? Was it the liver enzymes? My other thoughts were possibly a pinched nerve or something like a slipped disc. And I was unable to go to my chemo sessions the following Thursday because I couldn't walk. It hurt to breathe sometimes. I couldn't use my arms. And I treated it like, you know, for first aid. I put a heating pad on it. I kept my back still, and the pain did diminish. And I reported this to my doctor, and you know they were very kind. They actually sent me some really good pain pills. That's an agreement I made with my doctor that when I get toward the end, and if I'm in pain, I told him I'm not afraid to take the good drugs. And people that have known me all my life would know that. Not afraid to take them if I need them. But I don't want to get addicted. But at this point in time, when you only have weeks, that's not going to happen. And in fact, he said, okay, I'm not afraid to give them to you at this point. And so, yeah, they sent me some good opioids. And I've only taken them 4 times now in the past 2+ weeks when the pain's been bad. But it's actually been manageable, but I can't really walk, and I can't drive anymore, and I can't swim anymore, obviously. And using my arms very much is very difficult. I've had to get a chair to take a shower and really be careful with my movements to bathe myself and other things. I've had to adjust what I do, and I've had wonderful assistance from my amazing parents. 91 and 93 years old. Mom's 91, Dad's 93. And, you know, they can't do what they used to do, but they bring me food. I can still feed myself. But for the past 2 weeks, I've been bedridden. Basically, I've been out of the house 4 times in 2 weeks and 2 days. And 2 of those were for doctor's appointments. So I did go back the following week, and the blood work also showed, more spikes and certain things coming from my liver. But my wonderful oncologist is the best relationship with a doctor I've ever had. And really, really a hyper intelligent man, kind and gentle. We've been discussing this in very frank terms. And I'm not afraid to die. And I'm not afraid of dying. This is an inextricable part of life. It will happen to us all. There are things to be said about how my brother went to sleep with a headache and never woke up. I'm appreciative of having had a long runway knowing this was coming. And I've been able to wrap my head around what's happening quite well. I've always been a half full type of guy, and I'm not sad. I've lived a great life, amazing life. Watch some of my travel stories that are on my website as well, or on the link to the YouTube site. So I have no regrets. This happens to everyone. I don't know what's coming next. None of us do. You can choose to believe to be true something, but you don't know. You don't have evidence. You don't. And so, and I'm not wired to believe things without evidence. And I'm okay not knowing things. So I don't know what's coming. But therein lies the adventure. That was one of the things my travel career. I never knew what was going to happen. So many different things could happen. I woke up and I never knew what was going to happen that day, really. Things would happen I'd never happened before in my life and would never happen again. And therein lies the adventure. And I've always looked for that. So I don't have much problem with this. And I'm not in pain. What happened, the new chemo drug, and it surprised me, I didn't read the fine print, was an infusion, and all my immunotherapy infusions, they took 45 minutes to an hour, maybe an hour and a half if there was a delay getting the drugs from the pharmacy. This infusion was 4.5 hours. It's okay, and it went well. I did have some side effects from that, but then I had to go back the next day because when I got there, the doctor, and I was, shuffling. I can't really walk well. I have to hold my arms in a certain position when I walk so it doesn't cause pain in my back. I'd come to the conclusion that it was neurological. There was a nerve damage and possibly caused by the spine because the pain was on both sides of my spine between my shoulder blades. And then I still have radiating tingling on both arms. So I thought maybe it was a pinched nerve, and it turns out, and the doctor thought, yes, it isn't nerves, but it's possibly been caused by a fracture of my spine due to the bone cancer there. So to find that out, the following day, I had an MRI done. And if you've ever had an MRI, it's a really interesting procedure. I'm not claustrophobic, but I can see how it would freak people out. Actually, the first time I went in there, I had to control my breathing because once the clanking starts from the magnets, even though they have some headphones on you, they can give you directions and ask you questions that way. And I was able to, I've had 6 MRIs in my life, and it's not that big of a deal to me. But they always keep checking. However, this was the longest. It was an 1.5-hour MRI. And they kept asking me if I'm okay, and I am. And as tight as it is, they're concerned because people do freak out. When they pulled me out with gallows humor, I said, wow, that was great training for the coffin. I laughed. They chuckled. And then I asked them, has anybody ever said that to you before? And they're like, oh my God, no. And I said, well, it really doesn't apply to me because I'm being cremated. Another chuckle. So you can see I'm in good spirits. And then it was about 5 days before we got the information from the MRI. It takes a lot longer than PET scans. I'll get it right out on the PET scans, but PET scans are much more expensive. But this was very important to check on what's happening with my spine. And yes, in fact, I do have a fractured spine in my cervical spine between my shoulder blades that is pinching nerves that go to both of my arms. And they are trying to schedule now radiation where they can zap that tumor and possibly relieve some of the pain. However, I've been given some good medication. I've not really needed to take the pain pills. I still have the heating pad, but I also know what movements I can and cannot make, even though I'm not able to do most of the things I was able to do before. I already have a bad left leg, knee and hip, that was going to be replaced. I had a schedule to do it last summer, and then cancer intervened. Summer 23. So I'm dealing with pain, but it's okay. It's manageable. And I have a pretty high threshold for pain. And I've not had any of the feelings that I had. I probably rolled over in my sleep, and that's when the spine really moved on my nerves. And oh man, I thought I was being stabbed, screaming. My dad sleeps with his hearing aids out, and he even heard me and woke up. Blood curdling screams. I'm sure it was a 8.5 to 9.5 pain threshold pain, and it hasn't been that bad since. Yeah, I'm able to sit up in bed. I've got some good padding that I can sit against. I can put a heating pad on it, which I do periodically. And they've given me a drug called gabapentin, which really helps me sleep at night, but also helps with the nerve pain. So again, I'm not in much pain. I'm still able to talk and laugh and smile. And I will say that laughing and smiling, that's the best medicine ever invented. When you're laughing and smiling, pain is not an issue. My mind is still sharp, and I'm able to communicate lying with the phone on my chest as I am right now as I'm recording this. And video chatting, because I can't really sit up and I can't really hold the phone for very long up, but putting it on my chest and lying down, I'm having conversations with friends all over the world. And that's the blessing that I've had, the bonus that I've had. And there are things to be said about instant death. Or like my brother who died in 2022, he had a headache, thought it was COVID, but it was a sinus infection that broke through the blood-brain barrier into his brain. He went to bed with a headache and never woke up. And I've known I've had terminal cancer since late 2022. I've been able to travel up until July 23 and tick off some of my favorite sites in Europe, doing things like going to my 50th 500, Indy 500 with my dad and friends from college this past May. And while I was working in the Caribbean early in 2023, I was able to still go scuba diving. I have some wonderful scuba photographs. In fact, I made a video of that too. Check that out on my YouTube link. And 50 years after my first scuba dive. And I've been diving all over the world for 50 years. It's just, as I said, I've had a life that's full of amazing adventures. And the stories that I could tell and have told on video are just a few. So here I am now waiting for radiation that the doctor says if they can zap the cancer, it may relieve the pain, but that's okay. It's still a broken vertebra in my back. And, it's not like I'm going to be able to get much movement back, but I'm okay. My body is giving up on me. My mind and spirit are still strong. I hope you can tell from how I'm speaking here. And really, there's nothing I can do to change it. So I'm trying to enjoy what I can enjoy, and I still can't. I'm still able to listen to music. I'm even still taking a university level audio lecture course from a great professor, Gary Gallagher, who is at the University of Virginia, my alma mater, and is the now professor of the American Civil War. And that's a full lecture course on the Civil War. Learning things I never knew, even though I've studied it quite a bit over my life. And, that's the way I'm happy. That makes me happy. I've been a lifelong learner. Took that to my job, and it made my job because I love to learn and I love to do research, which was part of what I did as a shipboard enrichment speaker, talking about history, culture, and nature of wherever we were in the world, and always expanding my knowledge base. And it was amazing that I got paid for that. If I were in the position to be retired, and I'm not poor, I have money to give away to my niece and nephew, which is great. But I would have done that if I were retired. It was just, I loved it. It was not labor. It was not work. And I know how fortunate I am to have been able to live a life where that is the case. So back to the cancer tales. Yeah, there were some side effects from the this new chemo cocktail that I'm getting. It was pretty bad 3-4 days afterwards, and they told me those would be the worst days. And it was pain. That's when I took some of the opioid that I've been prescribed. But just I take a half dose. I don't take a full dose because I really feel drugs. And I know my body, and that's the one thing that when I got to the doctor and said, yeah, I think this thing's a nerve and it possibly is pinched by something. He said, yeah, you're right. That's what I'm thinking too. And let's do the MRI to find out. And that's exactly what it was. I didn't know it was caused by the cancer in my bone, but this melanoma I have is so deadly, but so rare, and therefore there are no protocols. So this new chemo drug I'm getting is not developed for this. But here's what he said: these chemo drugs, when they're developed for certain things, can work over a period of time. What has happened with the immunotherapy, he thinks, and the first chemo pills and now this, is that it probably does slow it down a bit initially, but then it loses the effectiveness because, again, it's not designed or tested on this type of cancer. And that's why I've done, I had radiation and surgery for my eye, and then I had immunotherapy, and then I had chemo with pills. Now I have chemo intravenously, and now I'm going to have another round of radiation for my spine. So they're just keeping to throw stuff at it to delay the inevitable, and I know that. So this is the latest update, and probably my last. I'm not, because I can't even edit this myself anymore. I'm not going to throw too much work on the wonderful person, Melanie, who is the executor of my will and has set up these links and is going to be in charge of the emails. I'll give her a list of the emails to send, but she'll be sending them out. I'm going to try and get her on my Hotmail account. And very soon, many of you will be receiving links to the YouTube site and links to, this is what she's done for me. She has loaded 45,000 of my travel photographs that are loosely categorized. They're in folders by city or by year, time of cruise visiting the city, or by regions of the world and then cities. The individual photographs are not labeled, but if you go to a city, you'll find a wide variety of photographs from that city that I've taken, and they're free to use. 45,000 of them on Flickr, on a Flickr account that is a premium account and is open to you. If you have the link, you can go in there and look and browse and use. Feel free to copy, feel free to use my photographs. And it will have a letter saying thank you. Again, that's the bonus of having had a long runway as opposed to my brother who went to sleep and never woke up. A long runway knowing that this was going to be my end, unless, you never really know when you're going to die. Well, I could have been hit by a bus or in a car wreck. Still could be. But, as it turns out, I did have a long runway to prepare some things like this. And to the letter, really, this amazing arc through life that I've had. I've benefited from meeting so many wonderful people. And it's given me the opportunity to thank those that have enriched and enlivened my life. And that includes you, most likely, the listener. So thank you. You've made my life better. So I wish you good health. Be well. And in the words of Spock, and that was my nickname growing up, live long and prosper.